Good evening and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting. Today is April 11th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Teresa Moss present. Veronica Scott present.
Chad Sexton Duranian present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I thank all our men and women's service to this country. This meeting will be recorded. We will be taking a recess and then rejoining at 7 o'clock in the Great Hall. Both portions will be cast live on Channel 9. Chairman's additions and deletions. I do have two additions. I'd like to add 3.2. This is going to be a discussion and appointing a member to the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust. And I'd like to add 3.3 to appoint that member. So we're going to discuss that and then appoint. And then I also would like to add 3.4, which is an appointment for the police department. Anybody have anything else?
I believe there are two appointments for the police department, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No mask.
You're all set? Anything else set? Okay. Next is review and approve the meeting minutes for 3/28. I'd like to put that onto our 4/18 agenda.
Make a motion that we move the review and approval of the meeting minutes for 3/28 to 4/18 agenda. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. We'll jump down to appointments of officials. So 3.1, to appoint Katie Kasanjian as Assistant Town Accountant. Eric, you want to give us the details on that?
Sure. This is something that I've been working on with the board's approval over the last month or so. We executed a contract that the board had reviewed for Katie to be a full-time assistant town accountant in our office. So she will, we've made some changes to, used to be Melanson, now it's Markham, which is our town accountant, to their contract for FY24, with the understanding that we are going to have a full-time assistant town accountant in the office. So I think it works out well for the town because we get to start training someone internally to be a full-time town accountant, and we'll have someone in the office full-time. The combination of Katie's salary and the contract with Markham is roughly equivalent to what we were paying them this year for their full-time services town accountant. So I would request though.
I know that I'm 100% on board with this. Any other discussion from anybody else? No?
Yeah, my only question was, I know that there's going to be a training curve in that, and we had 2,500 for training set aside for that. Do we think that's going to be enough?
I do, for the training that we've talked about, and one of the good things about the work that Markham's going to be doing for the rest of this fiscal year is they're going to be training Katie as part of their duties for the remaining 3 months of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that I'm sorry, computer just a minute. I'll make a motion that we appoint Katie Kazarian as Assistant Town Council.
Accountant.
Okay. Wow, I gave you a big promotion, Katie. That's all right, let's start that again. I make a motion that we appoint Katie Kazazian
Is the engine.
as Assistant Town Accountant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So it is unanimous. Katie,
Welcome
welcome.
aboard.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing somebody sitting in that seat down there.
Yeah, it's been nice to have her here for a couple of days this week.
3.2, we had received an appointment for the, Townsend Affordable Housing Trust, for Veronica. Veronica currently is the select board member that is on the trust. The trust is doing a lot of work, and the concern was, I'm thinking that we need to keep Veronica on that board so that there's a more of a continuity type issue. So I'm asking you how we would go about doing this. I'm thinking that we could pick the select person to take her select place and then appoint her on the board as a regular member.
Yeah, I think the first thing that would have to happen is the board would have to take a vote to change who the Board of Selectmen assignee to the trust is,
Okay.
as you've done in lots of different things before. That kind of moves around.
So I drop off it has to be a selectman. It can't be a
Right.
selectman.
So you would no longer be the select board member.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the application I put in was as
As a member.
because we have an opening
Yes,
on the trust for a
Yes.
regular person.
yes.
So I guess the only question is the timing.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
would
could-
think it would make more sense to wait until you are no longer selectman and wait till the board is full and then.
Well, I originally thought that, however, there's meetings coming up that are kind of important to get some of the things moving. And I don't want to push it off for another month. That's the only concern.
But
So-
she would be still representing there as selectman during those few months.
Not after.
No, but then when
I
the new
could
board came
resign.
on,
I could resign. I could resign next week as the Board of Selectmen representative. I mean, I was appointed
Right.
by the select board. And so I would resign as the select board rep, even though I'm still a selectman. I could do that over the next week.
let me just
And-
ask, Chaz, do you want to fill that? Because I don't have the time or the desire to fill that position. So
Well,
if you do,
I do.
okay,
and
then I don't have a concern.
I have also, and this is full disclosure, I've asked for an opinion from the State Ethics Commission in regards to my position as selectman and also my state appointed position as the Housing Authority State Representative. The opinion came back that there was no conflict of interest, so
Okay.
me
No,
being a
if you,
select board member would not.
if you're fine filling that position, then I have no problem waiting because then I'd ask the same question. Do you want to fill it? Because I know if you'll work with it.
Yeah.
Then I would ask and I'd defer to you anyway. So
Okay.
I have no problem waiting as long as I wasn't going to be voluntold.
I think it would be
We'll wait
possible.
until after the election.
Yeah. I think it would
I
be
wanted to wait and voluntold somebody else.
I think it would be possible for the board to take a vote now to appoint Chaz as the Board of Selectmen representative.
In- Okay,
And you
then-
would have to resign.
Well, yeah, I don't think it requires, because you're doing it as part of your, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, we've changed representatives in things before.
but I gave all the resignations to Adam just last week or the week before and whenever he was here, last week of March. And
But it wouldn't be a
there was a
resignation.
resignation from Wayne and there was one from Joe.
Okay, so maybe what we do is,
Joe resigned before the election last
Yes,
time.
he did. That's true.
Wayne, I'm not really sure about, but
we can take a vote effective the 18th. That Chaz would be the Board of Selectmen representative effective the 18th, and that you would be a citizen representative effective the 18th, and the interim you would need to submit your,
We can do that.
we can do that.
That would
Okay.
work.
and that way we could just take care of it and it wouldn't be floating around.
Okay.
Okay.
I just think that would be best because there's a lot of work that both things are doing and I don't wanna have a lapse.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense to try and
I was gonna
make
ask
sure
you
you
okay with that?
continuity.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
So
good.
should we make that into a formal motion?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I make a motion that we appoint Chaz as the representative to, what is the committee called?
Affordable housing trust.
Leave that right there.
Appoints Chaz as a select board member of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust,
Effective
effective
April 18th.
April 18th, 2023.
I'll
Second,
second that.
okay.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion that we appoint Veronica Kell, member of the Townsend Housing Affordable, a member of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust for a term to expire 4/30/2025, effective April 18th, 2023.
And I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
The key would be until the 25th, can't have any meetings where you're both there together. Cause
Oh,
you'll
where we're
still,
both there together? No, we won't be both
Yeah.
there. We are having a meeting on the 24th.
yeah,
But that's the Affordable Housing
That's
Trust.
the Affordable Housing Trust. We won't be there together.
yeah, as long as you're not there together, cause you're still
Oh, yeah. Oh, for
you're
sure.
still a select board member as of that
I see
date.
what you're
The
saying.
next, and so
Yeah.
if you're both there, it would be
Yeah,
you'd have to post a select board meeting as well. But then as of the next day, when you're no longer a member of the board of selectmen.
Okay,
okay,
no, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you,
Thank
for
you.
continuing with your work, because I think we're finally getting some traction with that, and I don't wanna lose it. But I do appreciate everything you're doing for them. It's nice to see that they have the direction. 3.4, is an appointment. Do you have that as well?
No, I don't know that. I'll just read it from
That's
the.
Yeah, this is an appointment, that Chief Sartell, wanted, or a promotion that Chief Sartell wanted to get done before the 16th, if I remember off the top.
Yeah, they would be effective on the 16th.
Correct.
So this is an appointment?
Yeah, I think if you just make a motion to appoint that person and that person at that rank.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Individually or?
Probably
both
should be two
together?
motions.
Okay. I make a motion that we appoint David Phillips to the rank of sergeant.
Can I second that? Any discussion?
It would be effective April 16th.
Yes.
Yes.
Effective April 16th, yes,
Okay.
effective April 16th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, David.
Mhm.
I make a motion, we appoint Jeffrey Gills to the rank. What?
Giles.
Giles, I'm sorry, Jeffrey Giles to the rank of sergeant effective April 16th.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
congratulations. Jeffrey.
Congratulations. Thank you, thank you.
And as we mentioned earlier, Chief Sartell will be bringing them back in May to be introduced to the board.
Good. 4.1 is review and finalize the, special town meeting and the annual town meeting warrants. How would you like to do this, Sarah? Just go one by one, or?
Yeah, if we want to start with the special town meeting, there has been only one minor change in this since the last time the board saw it. last week, which is we do have the final numbers for snow and ice. And so that is reflected in this warrant article. So if you want, I can go through them one at a time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Are you good with that?
What, with going through them
Mhm.
one by one? If you want to, sure. We're gonna go through it again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we are.
Or we can just say, does anybody have any questions? I mean, we did go through this last week and we're gonna go through them later. So maybe it's, if the board has specific questions about these, that would maybe be a more
Is
efficient
there
way to do it.
any specific one? I know that I'm gonna have to, when we get into the Great Hall, just remind me to change the number on the PowerPoint slide for the snow and ice.
Yeah. Just for the board's edification, the price of salt doubled from FY 22 to FY 23. And so we had a lot of treatment events as opposed to push events, which is what I would refer to plowing as with treating. And so unfortunately, treating is actually more expensive for us than plowing. So because of the salt costs.
So wow.
Yeah.
I guess I had.
I had hoped it was gonna come in at less than that.
So I just general, I'm just gonna throw them out there, because one, I wasn't here last week, and we apologize for that. Two, from the finance committee right before we came here. Just one question came up, and I'm pretty sure we're good here, but can you just confirm that, recreation funds, can be used to pay salaries? No, you don't have to do it now.
That's not this warrant, that's the.
That's, you're talking about the budget?
Yeah.
That's-
Isn't that part of the warrant here?
This is the special town.
Oh, the
meeting
special,
warrant,
never mind.
Yeah.
Disregard. Okay.
but yeah, that I could certainly, I don't know that off the top. I don't know of any
Yeah.
reason why they wouldn't be able to off the top of my head, but I can
pays the
certainly check.
salaries. It does pay the salaries for all of the, the
Counselors,
for
summer
the
staff
summer
and the after
Yeah,
school
but there
staff.
was, I just need to double check that, because there was a question.
I can double check that
promised
with Adam and ask her his,
Thank you.
opinion. We can get that before the town
We
meeting.
definitely know it pays for the program, but we just gotta double check.
I think there's an opinion on that from last year from Adam that I
Okay.
have. And it might be the one that you found in Ross's folder.
Oh,
You were
okay.
referring to last week.
Okay,
Can I have the number again for the snow and ice?
it is $262,131. Yeah, that's what I did when I thought.
Yeah.
But also, I apologize. Also, Article 2 has been amended as the board requested with the exact number for the
Yeah.
peg.
That's for last year.
The last year, we did this, I did the same in the annual town meeting warrant for
Excellent.
this.
Are we, well, when we get to, I'll ask my question for you.
Does anybody else have anything else from
Anything on
special
that?
town
Yeah.
meeting? These are all things that we've gone over multiple times, it feels like, since the fall. So there's nothing new in those. We can do the same thing with the annual town meeting. The only, I know that Teresa, since you weren't here last week, absent the budget,
Mhm.
the Article 4 is new. It's a request from the police department to put in several relatively small revolving funds to be able to fund firearm
I
licensing
saw that
and
when I looked at
public
it, yeah.
record requests and detail cruiser fees. So that was one that's new.
That was also something that, Chief Sartell had brought up during the budget summit in March.
Mhm.
He had mentioned this.
Yeah. And then, just like we did last time, skipping over the budget itself, if you go to article, article, 6 is the Prop 2.5 override. Article, Article 7 is just to see if the town would transfer free cash to balance the budget if for some reason that was necessary. Article 8 is a regularly scheduled article. Article 9 is the water enterprise budget, which is, as it has been presented and discussed at the Board of Water Commissioners, including the amount for intermunicipal expenses to be transferred to the town. Article 10 is the 2/3 votes for the additional borrowing for the PFAS water treatment plant. The good news is we were able to drop this by $1.5 million based on the bidding that has come in since the last time we were.
Right, so that went back up to 6.1, because I found out that $500,000 that we did for planning can be backdated, and that can get the forgiveness and 0%.
Okay, so we're gonna amend Article 10 to go from 5.6 to 6.1 to try to get that 500,000 in planning.
Right,
Also the,
and if we
Not
can't,
possibly
if we
forgiven.
can't, right,
okay.
So that's gonna change these numbers.
Yeah, so I will change that to 6.1. It had been 7.1 the last time we were here, but I'll change that to 6.1.
Article 10, right?
Yeah, Article 10.
Looking at the right one.
It's,
Sorry, I didn't, it should be highlighted and it's not, so I'll highlight that as well.
hang on a minute, this was last week's.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I removed an article, so if you're looking at last week's, then there's an article that was removed, so you're looking at Article 11, because we removed the stabilization article.
Yeah, so it's
so it goes from 7.1 to 6.1.
so Article 11 is Article 10.
correct.
Now I have to change all my slides.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Can't you just, screen share the thing from the SharePoint?
It's like this big when I do it.
So the next article is the capital finance article that includes all of the recommendations from the capital planning committee that the board has discussed in the past.
So I have a question. Can I ask a question? This is like a philosophical, more for next time, but should we get, okay, so override on the ballot, override here.
Yeah.
Okay. Assuming the override fails, and then it fails in the other two towns. Eventually we are mandated to meet some budget from the schools.
Sure.
Will this article be able to be revisited, this capital stabilization? We're borrowing for all of this. Does it get at all affected if we have to make cuts in our operating budget?
I wouldn't think so.
Because it's borrowing?
Because it's borrowing. Yeah.
Okay.
This,
All right.
you know, yeah, I wouldn't anticipate coming back to the board and saying our borrowing would all be altered because of need to make cuts in the
Okay,
budget.
so it's only things that are in the budget.
Right.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Article 12 is the lease for the ambulance, which we've discussed before. Article 13, this is where we put in the final number for the PEG access for the first 3 quarters of
Is it 3/4 then?
That's 3/4, yes.
So we need to look at the agreement that we have, because I know that with special town meeting and this, we are given 4 quarters.
Right.
But we should just review that.
And so I will continue to look at this. If we get the 4th quarter receipts in,
We can adjust.
I'll ask the board to adjust that warrant article to include the 4th quarter receipts.
Okay.
Article 5 is for the 300th anniversary, which is a regular Article 14. Article 15 is the $8,000 for the assessors, which comes in every year. Article 16 is the aggregation article, which we've been discussing for a while. So that's the article that authorizes the town to go out for energy aggregation. So that's obviously we talked about it's real positive to the town. Article 17 is the article that makes the two minor changes to the town meeting version, the town meeting bylaw. Changing the quorum from 75 to 50 and changing the date that warrant articles are submitted to selectmen for the annual town meeting from the 1st of March to the 1st of April, which is more consistent with what the board actually does. Article 18 is the Community Preservation Act article. The article itself does not include the things that the Board of Selectmen voted for. The motion on this article will include the rate and the proposed exemptions as part of the motion.
Why is that? Why isn't it here?
That is because that's how everybody does it. That's how the Community Preservation Coalition says you're supposed to do it in the town.
Okay.
And so rather than
So, for this, I would like to have, information for Earth Day to hand out. We can talk about this next week,
Sure.
but that will be a short amount of time for
hearing
available
it, yes.
printing.
yeah.
So, we need to have a handout.
Yeah, so I'm gonna call the Community Preservation Coalition and see if they can give us some.
Okay, thank you.
The Article 19 is the bylaw for the Town's Own Affordable Housing Trust, which is laid out in its entirety, and was drafted by council.
It mirrors pretty much exactly the Declaration of Trust
So that goes on for
with amendments.
multiple pages. And then the final article, Article 20, is the acceptance of Harbor Trace Road and Cooperage Way, which is in here. We're going to be having public hearings on those in front of the Joint Planning Board of Selectmen meeting on the 18th.
Okay. And that's 20.
That's 20.
Do you mind if I say something with that? Contingent on the treatment plant being built.
Contingent on that $6.1 million getting passed. Otherwise, there's no money for Harbor Trace to be paid.
What about, the other open space preservation development on Highland Street?
You're talking about Penny Lane and Coppersmith?
Yeah.
That is a part of them. So I do have a plan to try to address those in during FY 24.
Okay.
Hopefully with some of the paving dollars that we've set
I
aside.
was reading them from here.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I've already talked to Jimmy about it and I told him to put those on his list. That way, hopefully by the end of FY 24, those two roads would also be eligible for acceptance.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
So that basically is everything but the budget. So, we want to maybe move on to the discussion of the budget and then maybe afterwards the board could just vote to accept the warrant articles once we, that the budget's okay.
Okay,
If that's okay with you.
so can I ask questions on the budget? I
I
wasn't
will
there.
give you a blanket answer, so you don't have to ask if you can ask questions, okay? So you can ask questions, this is where we're here.
Okay, so line 20. The March, estimate,
Yes,
did we confirm with Bruno on that?
I haven't, but I will.
Because what we got in, and this is in communication for the rest of the board, is 9,344 as opposed to the 25,000 that's here.
One thing that I was noting is that our requests for bids for insurance, we only had one entity provide bids for insurance, which is a little disappointing. And so we may need the delta between the 25 and the 9 to pay for increased insurance costs. Unfortunately. So I will know. I wouldn't propose making a change at the moment.
And while we're still in that section, why did, town reports double? It's actually more than double. I guess it's more.
Yeah, so the cost for the town reports went up.
1,500.
So
No, 2,500.
and additionally, I actually think there was a portion of this that was supposed to go into BOS professional services and not the Boston Town Reports professional services. So that may be
Either way, why? What is it?
well, so the BOS professional services, I mean, the reason why I wanted to increase the professional services in the Board of Selectmen offices is because we've been asked to do several kind of get several different types of reports over the course of the fiscal year we're in now, and the Board of Selectmen doesn't have the funds to procure any of them. So the dam report, we're talking about possibly
Damn report.
that dam report is going to be expensive. So if we up this, my intention, and I apologize, was to, like I said, to increase the line 13 instead of line
Yeah, it
14.
doesn't seem right, because isn't the town report, isn't that?
No, I think we had,
done,
it has to get printed.
gratis, isn't that, but there's some of that, it's like the artwork and something, isn't that?
Yeah, but the printing of that many costs have gone
Yeah,
up.
but I don't think it's gone up that much.
But I did want to have money in professional services, so if we had one of these reports next year, we might be able to fund them out of the BOS professional services instead of looking for alternate funds.
That was 100% increase.
So I appreciate you pointing
Do you
that out. I
think
will
it
make
needs
that.
that much?
No, like I said, I think that $1,500 of that is supposed to be in the Boston professional services.
Right, but even for
55.
professional services, do you think you need 100% increase in the professional services?
So the dam report's gonna cost us $5,100.
Yep.
The report on healthcare is gonna cost $5,000. You know, there are just lots of times during the year when we have no kind of bucket wishing to reach to prepare some sort of reporting that's gonna require a consultant. I would like to, I think there's a.
Okay,
Then maybe we need to increase it even more, the general professional services as opposed to town reports.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think that town reports are supposed to go up to 3,500 and the professional services are supposed to go up to 5,500.
Okay,
So I apologize.
so line 13
is 5,500 and line 14 is 3,500. So I apologize.
so I asked for less money and you added more.
What?
So I asked for less money and you added more.
Well, but less money in the line that you asked me.
I got that going.
and what are we doing with line 20? We're leaving it at 25 or we're gonna?
At this point in time, I think we should leave it until until I know whether or not we're gonna get any other proposals for insurance. Because it might be that another proposal will come in under our current line. I wouldn't want to move the money there and then not be able to use it for some other MART related project if possible in the fiscal year.
Okay. Sounds good. That sounds good, question. All right, got it.
Going forward, anything?
That was my main question. I went through not this budget, but the budget that was put in. You had put a budget in separate from the warrant,
Yes,
and I looked through that.
yes.
This is the same thing.
Can I move on?
Yep.
Okay, 162 and 163, so we are no longer gonna have, conservation support, we're gonna have a full-time conservation agent,
That's correct.
and are they already full-time?
No.
Okay,
Both of those positions were part-time. The conservation agent currently was at 15 hours and got additional 4 hours paid for a week out of ARPA funds
okay,
for an ARPA line. So, this budget proposes consolidating them into one full-time position.
okay, and getting rid of the four?
And
Are
get
they
rid
still
of the
gonna
support
be,
aid of the administration.
but I mean, the four is still gonna come under ARPA, or are they gonna be taken over by the support?
At this point in time, it still includes,
and they-
4
it's still
hours of their
under-
hours paid by
under
ARPA.
The ARPA was for the life of ARPA.
Yeah.
Okay,
We did the
so they will
calculations for the
continue
life of ARPA for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that may be something that we revisit at a future date, but right now, in the budget, it's planned to.
So the current agent is gonna go to 32 hours or 40 hours?
So, the board has not gotten the appointment requests yet.
Okay.
But, the current conservation agent has, applied for and is, going to be my proposal to hire as our new land use coordinator.
Okay,
And our current conservation support individual is going to be applying for the full-time conservation agent role.
okay, and both of those are 32 hour position?
The land use coordinator is a 35-hour a week position. And the conservation agent is 32 hours a week.
32 requires health.
20 requires health insurance.
Oh, so it doesn't matter, 32 or 40?
Yeah.
Never mind, okay. And, and line 206. They changed the title on this, the land use wages. I'll say, grant administrator. Do we have anybody in that position?
No. So this is a proposal that I have to draft up the job description and bring it to the board to take what was 9 hours of the grant administrator that was under the Board of Selectmen last year. We'd be moving it back under the land use department. Combine that with 10 hours of housing administration for the housing authority and the housing trust to fund a 19.5-hour position doing housing and grant administration. That would sit in the land use office. So it's just putting together a few different pieces that are separate right now into one kind of more robust position.
Yeah, we
So
discussed
that's,
this last week.
Yeah.
it's, that's why there's a decrease in the position and, okay.
Yeah, so it's a decrease in the number over last year because it was going from 10 hours to 9.5 hours a week. So that's the decrease that you see from in the Board of Selectmen line to this line.
Okay,
And this will be coupled with the housing authority and housing trust person.
Hours, yes.
Yeah.
To try and to get another body in to have some more kind of robust service. I was concerned that so we didn't get any applicants when we posted the grant administrator for 10 hours. We tried and we didn't. I know that we got some applicants in the beginning, but when they left.
That was when it was a 15-hour a week position. It wasn't 10 hours.
So hopefully at 19.5 hours, we might be able to get some more. Our hope is to attract some better candidates.
okay. And the last question I have, there animal inspector, was the increase in that salary almost double because of the change in the position, description that had something to do with rabies duties?
Right, so you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
So there's a change in the description, and we're looking to hopefully bring in the person from Ashby who'd been doing this in Ashby to be able to handle it. And
Right, and then there's a little bit more to it now than just
yeah,
one cow, two cows.
right, right.
There's a lot more involved in it than that. Yes.
I apologize to all the animal counted cow counters out there.
So that's
It was supposed to be funny, but again, it did not mean to be insulting. But no, I'm glad to see that increase.
yeah, greater,
Okay.
greater, than the barn, but just the barn.
Anything
That were
else?
my questions.
Can I make a request when this gets actually printed? Can we, increase the size of the columns? Is it me or is it the way it is? So that all numbers are on one line. Like if you look at line 493, in other words, increase, is it
They're all on one
funky
line.
or are they all on one line?
They're all on one line.
That print out. Why is it like this here? It's really hard to read.
Oh, when I put it in the SharePoint, does it not show up that way?
Maybe it's just because it's an apple.
It could be because
Yeah.
I'm on a Mac. I mean, that is a possibility. But
Yes, I would make sure that when it's printed, that it's as it should show.
the
just
way
one-
it looks like on Jazz is not the way it looks like on my
Yes,
screen.
I will make sure that
Which
gets
is
printed
just
that,
crazy.
in that format, yes.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
you
you.
have one. Oh, I see.
You see what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
The one digit falls down.
That would
to
be
the
very
next
annoying.
line. It is annoying.
I apologize that I wasn't here last week, but I am gonna just have to ask. There was a change and it's a union job, but there was a change in position on line 700 and it was a decrease. But I would assume there was an error that was found or something.
Would you say line 700?
The recreation department head?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the board, there was I think that there was
an 8% increase on that line.
there was an 8% increase on that
And
line.
we
instead
dropped
of
it to 4%.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That's all I need to know.
We did go back and review the records and found that
Okay.
that would be in line.
You're right, yep. Can I just ask, overall, because I noticed that we had a brand new position in longevity was there, $500, longevity. Well, what does longevity mean?
6 years?
Five.
And after 5.
Yeah, after 5, you get $500.
So we put on a line item as soon as we create a position, but we don't stop paying it until 5 years.
No, it doesn't go into any new position. It only goes into a position if the person there is gonna get longevity.
But there is a longevity line in every budget for the anticipated.
People who are gonna get it that
Right.
fiscal year.
So you know that after 10 years, it goes up to
800,
800, and then after 15, it goes up to
1100,
1100, and after 20, is
1500.
15?
I think it's 1500.
So if we had a position that wasn't filled and we fill it, and that person that left had longevity, but the new person coming in shouldn't have longevity, correct?
Correct. Is there a place here where you
I
caught
thought I
that?
saw it.
I know there was one position where we had noticed that they were in the
There-
conservation,
yeah.
No,
That's exactly where it
It was on
was.
conservation, it was council on aging.
on the council on
Yes.
aging,
Council
yeah.
on Aging,
Yes, it
where, the person had moved from one town position to another and the longevity wasn't transferred.
Right, so we
And
fixed that,
so
but.
that.
But for any new positions, there shouldn't be longevity unless the person who was going into that new position has longevity
Oh,
with the town.
maybe they had it from a previous position. Good, does that work?
I don't think,
That is correct.
it's
in
possible,
CLA.
that would be in the council on aging.
That was.
That may be what you're
the
looking at, is the assistant
position.
director in the council on aging. As the person who moved into that had worked with the town in the library department before.
Okay, let me just do a quick,
Yeah,
oh, we gotta
can
go
do it
run
quick
anyway.
Cause we have
Yeah,
10
yeah,
minutes and I
okay.
wanna,
We can bring it up later and come back.
I'll just give myself some time just to change a couple of things on the presentation.
I think I was good otherwise. I was wondering, did we get an MIA or other health insurance, quote yet?
Well, not for, so we have our rates for Maya for health
Okay.
insurance. So that
We do have
increase
that.
is included in
Okay,
the budget,
but not for the general.
not for the general,
liability.
not for the
Okay.
general liability.
Did we get a quote from them?
Not yet.
Do they have a deadline? I mean, we tried our town meeting.
Well, I asked to have quotes in by the 10th.
That's like yesterday.
Yeah, it's not a, it's not a formal
Right.
request for bids.
It's not a hard stop.
Yeah, so if they came in the rest of this week, we're still on it.
You can look at them.
Alright.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, good to-
4.3, review and vote on any MLEC agreement.
That's the NEMLIC agreement. This is not any different from the existing NEMLIC agreement. When there's a change in, administrators, they like to have the new administrator's signature on there along with the Board of Selectmen to indicate that I'm aware of the agreement as well. So it would just be authorization to sign the continued NEMLIC agreement.
For you to sign it.
For all, I think that it requires the board to sign it as well.
Well, it says, I think it's the
chair.
Well, it can be either or. It can be the town manager or administrator or chairman of the Board of Selectmen and the president of the NEMLIC.
And I found the position, the accounting position that we just created. And the longevity listed.
Oh, that's not for the accounting position we created. That's for the
assistant.
the assistant,
Oh, okay.
the administrator. So that there's
Okay.
another
Yeah,
person
I
in that
looked at the
office.
wrong one then.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Right, so can we have a motion to approve the town administrator to sign the NEMLIC agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank you. Do we want to make motions to approve the special town meeting and the annual town meeting warrants? Or do you want to wait and those could happen at the end of the discussion?
Let's wait for the
That's
discussion.
what I was.
Okay, yeah, that would,
Okay.
just wanted to kind of say it out loud. So
Yeah, let's not forget it.
Yes, so we don't forget.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna make a motion to
Do we need to
Recess.
recess to
recess
the Great Hall.
to the Great Hall? I make motion, we recess to the Great Hall and we'll return here after the meeting in the Great Hall. The second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we will recess.
Make it so.
Aye, aye.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the Selectmen's meeting in regards to the special annual town meeting review. We had convened our meeting at 6 o'clock to go over a few other Selectmen business, and then we did want to adjourn, but we recessed and then came back in here. So I want to call this meeting back to order, and a roll call, please.
Veronica Cal present.
Teresa A. Morse present.
And Chad Sexton Duranian present. This meeting is being recorded. It is live right now on Channel 9. And we're going to pick back up with the special town meeting. Before that, I just wanted to say a couple of things. We have had a lot of work in regards to both the warrant articles for the special and the annual town meeting. We also had a lot of work on the budget. I want to thank all the departments within town to our budget summit, which I thought was very successful this year. Everybody did bring some a lot of understanding on what everybody does and what we need to do to fund the special services that we do have for the town. I also feel that, with the work that we have been doing, and a lot of it, especially with our budget since September and October of last year, this isn't something that we just pick up, within a couple of weeks. We've been working on this for a long time. I know I have sat in with the town administrator, with school committee meetings. We did one in September, we did one in October, November, and December, talking about what the town, where the town's position was and what we can afford. We are looking to be able to come up with some sort of agreement that we're all in this together. I understand that the culture right now is we all are struggling to some respect, and we do take a lot of that into consideration, especially with the budget process that we're going through. We have always been very transparent. I know that I have since I've joined the Board of Selectmen, and we have had many discussions in regards to what we can and can't afford. We have what is being presented tonight is a budget that reflects what we feel that we can afford. The budget does reflect monies that go into roads, which I think is really important. This is the first time that we're actually putting money back into the roads for now, and again, this is just proposed. We're also looking at other services in town. We're looking at land use. We're looking for some development. We need housing production that will increase our economic base for taxation in the town. There's a lot of things that I think that we should be heading in that direction right now. So understand that a lot of this is a work in progress. I want to thank my fellow select people. We have been working very hard on this. This is probably our 6,000th review of where the budget is right now. But tonight's forum, this is an extension of the Board of Selectmen, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask the questions. It is not a place to debate what's on the warrant articles. That is what town floor is going to be during the town meeting. But in regards to any questions that anybody has, feel free to let us know. Step up to the microphone, and then we can address those as well. Is there anything that either of you want to say? You all set? Okay. So let's just jump right into it, because it seems like we haven't even left it. So we'll start with the special town meeting. Again, we will have to dissolve the previous meetings, special town meetings, because we did not have a quorum. So we had incorporated those warrant articles into one warrant article for the special town meeting. So Article 1, I guess you want to just go down the line, and how would you guys like to do this?
I think we can just quickly review some of these, and if there's any questions on...
Okay. If that is, we're going to look at each article, and then if there's any questions, just raise your hand, and we can go from there. Article 1 on the special town meeting, is basically hearing reports from boards, committees, or commissions. It's pretty standard in the, that's something that is in every special. Article 2 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG access receipts reserved account funds equal to 5%. Did you want to explain what this one is? Because we do have another one in the annual too.
Me?
Yeah.
For TCAM, the town's agreement with Comcast is that 5% of their gross revenues get transferred to the town. So if you have Comcast in town, you pay your Comcast bill, 5% of their revenues then get transferred back to the town for the purpose of public access television. And it funds TCAM. So the town's agreement with TCAM is to provide them every year with the 4 quarters. The transfer happens quarterly. So the 4 quarters of revenue get transferred. The way it fell out last year, we hadn't received the 4th quarter at the time of the annual town meeting. So we transferred only 3 quarters last May. So this is the 4th quarter from FY22 to be transferred to TCAM. So that's $45,577.04. So that's what that is.
Okay, thank you. Article 3, this is to amend the vote under Article 15 of the May 3rd, 2022 annual town meeting warrant, changing the sum reallocated to the capital stabilization account. The retroactive salary adjustments, and it was adjusting it from $21,775.52 to $11,071.97. And the total sum allocated under the Article 15 from that time was from $41,663.75 to $30,960.20. That's really kind of, do you want to address the overage, or actually we had to adjust it?
Yeah, so this was based on at the time of last May's town meeting, I think that there was an overlap between the putting together the warrant articles and 2 late invoices for retroactive pay. So those late invoices came in shortly before town meeting, and the edits didn't make it into the final town meeting warrant. So this is just basically a clerical error from last year.
And this corrects that?
Yes.
Article 4, to see the town vote to reallocate $28,258. The sum voted under Article 9 on May 7th, 2019. We had a roof replacement done on the recreation building, or the old bank building. That came in under, and it's a reallocation so that they can make repairs to the stairs. Some of it would be to the town hall roof, and some exterior repairs and maintenance. So this is really just a basic reallocation for the remaining funds from the roof. Any questions on that? No? Article 6 is to see if the town would vote to appropriate from free cash or other available funds the treasury sum of $75,000 for paying unbudgeted increases in energy costs. Eric, you want to address that as well? Did I? I did. And this one is to appropriate from free cash or other available funds the treasury sum of $29,000 for the purpose of paying unbudgeted increases in the town's general insurance costs. So you want to start with that one, and we'll jump to the other one.
So this is the town's general insurance, which is its property, casualty, professional liability insurance policies, cyber insurance policies. We had not received the reissuance of those policies until after town meeting, and so unfortunately the amounts came in higher than the amount that was level funded. So that amount had just been level funded from FY22 to FY23. So this is the change in those the increased, as everyone knows, people's insurance goes up every year, and so this is the cost of that increased insurance cost for that year.
Okay, thank you.
I can go right into Article 6.
You can go right into Article 6.
So this is to appropriate from free cash $75,000 for unbudgeted increase in energy costs. The energy costs from FY22 to FY23 were level funded for the town's facilities budget, but we knew at the end of FY22 that because of the increased cost of energy and the increased square footage of buildings that were being heated and cooled, that we were significantly short, and we actually had to come and make a municipal relief transfer with the FinCom at the end of FY22 to cover those increased energy costs. It was level funded from FY22 to FY23, so this is just to bring it up to the amount that we actually spent in FY22 for energy. So that's that number there.
Okay. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from free cash or other available funds the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of paying expenses for accountant services. This was an additional, well, why don't you go ahead and explain it?
Sure.
You can be more specific.
Sure. So this actually encompasses 2 increases in accountant costs. The first is for the closure of FY22, we had a contract with Melanson to close FY22. They gave us an estimate of the cost that it was going to be to close the fiscal year. Unfortunately, there was more work to be done than they thought, and that our contract allowed them to bill us hourly, and so $15,000 of this 25,000 was to fund the closure of FY22. The remaining 10,000 was to fund the costs for the town accountant contract for Melanson for FY22. The budget had $80,000 for a full-time town accountant. The town had been looking for a full-time town accountant for a very long time, was not able to find anyone. So we hired a vendor. Unfortunately, we got competitive quotes from multiple vendors, and the least expensive qualified vendor came in at more than we had budgeted. So we are required to have town accountant services. It's not optional. So the remaining 10,000 in this warrant article is to cover that delta between what was budgeted for a full-time town accountant and what our actual vendor costs.
Article 8, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from free cash or other available funds in the treasury the sum of $7,500 for installing new heating and air conditioning unit in the town clerk's vault. This was something that was asked for in the last 2 when we're just carrying this over. This is preserving our records, town records. Article 9 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate from free cash or other available funds in the treasury the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of paying expenses for the repair of the Council on Aging library roof and insulation. Are we going to is this going to go forward?
So this may not go forward, depend on kind of some facilities investigation with the contractor responding to the work, but at this point in time, we haven't made that determination yet.
Okay. Article 10 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate from free cash or other available funds in the treasury the sum of, $11,000 for the purpose of paying one-time expenses and the first-year annual fee to revamp and update the town website. Did you want to address on that one, since you've done a lot of work on it?
The only thing I can say is we currently have Civic Plus, and this is to move from Civic Plus to a company called Revise. And we had hoped to do this earlier this year, but of course we never had special town meetings, so they preserved our quote, and this is the startup and the first year's cost. So it will be less in the follow-on years than the 11,000.
Right. So it's their startup in the beginning, but it is gonna assist us in times going forward, and I do think that it'll allow us to be able to be a little more, to allow better traffic handling on the current website. It'll also allow us to do some add-ons that we're looking to do. Add-ons would be, we are looking to have, the building department is working on some software to help them out, and we just want to make sure that we're keeping up to where we should be as far as technology is concerned. Article 11 is to see if the town will vote to transfer for the sales of lots from the cemetery fund in the sum of $15,000, and it's really ongoing upgrades and maintenance and repairs to the cemeteries and any expenses related to that. And this one's from the cemetery and parks. Article 12, excuse me, it's to see if the town will vote to reallocate $25,000 on the sum voted under Article 12 of the May 3rd, 2022 annual meeting warrant. These are transfers or money left over from what they were allocated to and then putting it towards it. I know that I've been working very closely with the water department on a lot of work that they've done. The superintendent is really kind of cleaning up what they have for on their books and preparing for the new water treatment plant that they're putting in. But they do need some equipment, new equipment for their every day-to-day kind of thing. They did have a request in and got approved for a pipe fusing machine, but they want to be able to have a dump trailer. There's ground penetrating radar that they're also looking for as well. That's going to help them on a day-to-day basis. There's also, they were allocated money for a 36-inch plotter printer scanner, and they want to put that towards the ground penetrating radar unit as well, as opposed to using the plotter, or for the plotter. Article 14 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from the water enterprise retained earnings in the sum of $5,000 for paying the remaining purchase price for a ground penetrating radar. So all of those were really kind of focused on the ground penetrating radar, and this would be the additional $5,000 to make sure that they have that piece of equipment, and that will be instrumental in kind of helping them out moving forward. Article 15 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from the water enterprise retained earnings for $50,000 to repair and maintain the SCADA. That's the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Service. This is all computer controlled. It needs to be updated. It's a very important piece of equipment, especially with the infrastructure, with utilities. It needs to be protected. There needs to be a lot of safeguards in regards to making sure nobody hacks into that system and that kind of stuff. So in order to keep us up to date with a lot of those, this is what this warrant article is for. So this one is to transfer from free cash any available funds for the snow and ice deficit. As we know, we did get hit with a last minute storm this year, which was kind of...
That number is incorrect.
Correct. That's the one I didn't change. That's the one I couldn't find, but we'll update that. The last storm that we had was really kind of pushed us over the edge in regards to the money is concerned. I did find out that there is a difference between plowing and salting, or pushing, as they call it, and prepping. So they did more prep than pushing in regards to that. But salt is very, very expensive. And do you have that number, Veronica?
I have that number, Chaz.
Go ahead.
So the final number is $262,131.
And that would be on Article 16.
For Article 16, yes.
Article 17 is to amend bylaws. This is general provisions. This is non-criminal disposition of violations, and it's for by adding a new subsection N thereto as follows. This is in regards to public lighting bylaw. The enforcing officer will be the inspector of buildings, and the fine schedule that's being put on the warrant article is first offense $25, second offense $50, third offense $100, fourth in each subsequent offense $200. Article 18 is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws. These are special provisions, site plan review and special permit.
It's mostly just verbiage.
Yeah, it's really kind of changing the words in it. Did I put the, no. There's a lot of ambiguity to the way the current bylaw was written, and what they tried to do is address the ambiguity and to make it a little more clear in regards to what exactly is, for special permitting, what is exactly the process, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. Article 19 is the lease agreement with the North Middlesex Regional School District for the Spalding School located at Wickham Street. This is an agreement that we're asking for a 20-year lease in regards to. I think currently we're operating on one that was written back in the 70s, if I remember correctly.
It's a very old lease that we're currently operating on. I don't know the exact date.
Yeah, we wanted to update that, and that's what this article is for. Article 20 is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey a fee to 97 Main Street, shown on Assessor's Map 34, Block 38, Lot 1. The decision for the board to be able to make the best interest or whatever is the interests of the town to execute any and all agreements and documents to effectuate the conveyance, or authorize the board to take any and all legal action in connection with that piece of property has been sitting there for a while, and this authorizes the Board of Selectmen to be able to make decisions on that. And that would be the special and annual town meeting. So, I think we did make some corrections with our meeting before, and I just want to make sure that I had all of those corrections before we started back out here. But Article 1 for this is to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint all town officers. This is a typical warrant article. Article 2 is to see if the town will accept to hear and accept reports of any committees, boards, or commissions. And again, these are all typical articles. To see if Article 3 is to see if the town will vote to authorize the following fiscal year 2023 spending limits for the following revolving funds. Should that be 24?
FY '24.
Yeah. That should be 24, so that's incorrect there. But these are the spending limits for the following revolving funds. As you can see, recycling, recreation, facilities, cemetery, the fire alarm, animal care program, fire EMS, police, conservation, fire and EMS. Article 4 is to see if the town will vote to authorize the following revolving funds. This is a new request from the police department. There are times that he will need funding for certain things, the firearm licensing, public records request, and police department detail cruiser fees. And this allows them to be able to have that cash more readily. Is there anything you want to add in regards to that, Eric? Yeah, it's something that the chief did bring up in our budget summit. And this just allows him a little more flexibility to be able to get some of these things done in a more efficient manner. With those, they're going to be covering costs of firearm licensing, including but not limited to maintenance and supplies for a fingerprint system that they have, camera and pointers funded through the local share of firearms fees already deposited into the town account. It's also going to excuse me, also cover the costs of producing electronic and video responses to public records requests. As you know, they have the body cams, and if somebody is requesting public record for the body cams, it does take a little bit of time in funding to be able to do that. This also will help to cover wear and tear on cruisers above and beyond the normal police use. Article 5 is to appropriate and transfer from available funds sums that are necessary to defray the charges and expenses of the town for fiscal year 2023 pursuant to a detailed budget totaling $26,394,636. And these were all of the funds. Do you want to address anything on this, Eric?
No, just very quickly, these are the non general fund revenue sources used for the budget. In addition, the budget also uses ARPA funds as a non-general fund revenue source.
So these are the functional segments. I think I did this right. It looks right. So this, yes? Okay. Do you want to address this?
Yeah, so I do apologize. There's an error in the general government. It should be 1,887,286. So I apologize for that. These are generally speaking, we break down the sections of the budget into kind of functional segments based on the services that are provided by the departments. So obviously public safety encompasses police, fire, building inspectors, TEMA. Education is obviously North Middlesex Regional School District, along with the tech. Highways and streets, that's kind of self-explanatory. Solid waste is self-explanatory. And then various other departments are grouped into segments in the budget. So general government includes the Board of Selectmen's office, the Treasurer's office, the town accountant, the town clerk, things like culture and recreation are kind of various other departments. So these functional segments that's what the reason they're laid out this way, is the departments fall into those general categories.
Article 6 is what we had put in case that we needed to do a Proposition 2.5 override. At the time that we had voted on it, this was the amount, $812,336. That is, again, what the the budget that, I know that in September, our numbers were very flexible when we talked in the budget with the school committee at that particular time.
I just want to say, our meetings were with the administration, not the school committee.
Right, the administration.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the administration.
So we had explained, where the town was at that particular time. And then after that, we pretty much solidified what we knew would be, what we would be able to afford, not only for what we paid last year, but an increase in what we would be able to do and not cut any services to the town at that particular time. So this particular figure is the figure that would be the addition to where the school budget is right now. So that's why we achieved this, where we have this figure here. Do you want to say anything?
What would I say? Do you have a question, Kathy?
Yeah.
I think we should go with questions.
So what happens if it doesn't pass?
You mean on the ballot?
On the ballot or here?
Right.
So I can answer that. Yeah. So if the Prop 2.5 override does not pass on both the ballot and at town meeting, it means that the budget can't be funded, and so the budget would not be able to be funded, and would need to go back to be reevaluated by the school committee.
If Ashby and or Pepperell.
True, as long as at least one other town doesn't pass it.
So the thought process behind this is to make sure that we put this on have a ballot, only because you need a ballot. You need to have it voted by the town on a ballot, and it also has to be voted in town meeting. So we put this in here just to make sure that we had that all covered before town meeting, so that if it doesn't pass on the ballot, then we know where we stand, what our next steps what we will need to do for our next steps.
Yeah, so because we're a regional school district, it gets complicated. In order to pass a regional school district budget, 2 of the 3 towns have to pass the school budget. The other 2 towns in our district are not putting it on the ballot until after town meeting. So they're having a vote on the budget at town meeting, and then if it passes at town meeting, they would put it onto a subsequent called special election. If 2 members of the region vote yes on the school budget is passed, and the 3rd town has to alter their budget in such a way that they comply with whatever the school's request is. But if at least 2 towns say no, then it would revert back to the school committee, and the way the law is in Massachusetts, they would put together another budget, but they're not allowed to increase the budget over what they'd originally submitted. Right. Yeah. So the towns cannot be asked to pay any more than they were originally asked to pay at the first passage of the budget.
So there's a couple of warrant articles really kind of to make sure that if this happens, then we have this warrant article. If that happens, we have another warrant article for it. So however this works out, we would be able to take care of this within town meeting.
Yeah.
We will at town meeting vote each of those functional segments, correct?
Right.
So that would be general government, public safety, education, et cetera, et cetera. Each of those would be voted, and we would review the budget that is here. And then we would go to Article 6, and I think we ask Article 6 regardless, correct?
Yes. So I think I think in order for the budget to be funded, there would need to be, in its current form, an override. So if the override fails on the ballot and fails at town meeting, we would need to vote no on the education portion of the budget and send it back to the school committee.
So that's, can you just clarify? Because you just said we're going to be voting on Article 5 on the educational portion of the budget as it's written on Article 5. Let me see,
Right.
can't find the line. What's the dollar amount on Article 5?
That's the 15 million.
14,938,360.
Okay.
Okay. And then we're doing a second vote on Article 6?
Well, the second vote is required for the override. Yes.
No, the second, Article 6 says it's not per the override. Article 6 specifically states, am I reading it wrong? It says outside of Proposition 2.5.
That allows us to raise $812,000 outside of Prop 2.5, which says we can't go over 2.5% increase. So Prop 2.5 is the statute that says you can only raise taxes 2.5%.
Oh, okay.
So this allows us to go outside of that statute to raise taxes more than that.
So we take the vote at the ballot. We take the vote both on the budget and on Article 6. And then we, if it would come back, if Article 6 came back yes, that would mean we would need another ballot vote.
You mean if the ballot said no?
If the ballot said no,
We would,
but the Article 6 said yes, then, because we went through all of these last
Yes.
week,
We-
then that means there would be another,
there would be a special election for another Proposition 2.5 override, yes.
Yes.
it would be whatever the amount is at the point that we needed to make the budget.
Right.
So in other words, even last night at the school committee meeting, there was a vote that lowered the assessment.
Well, would have lowered if it passed.
Pardon me?
It would have lowered if it passed, but it didn't pass.
It did pass.
Oh, they didn't lower.
Oh, it was 5-3, so it did not pass.
Correct.
Okay, even though they said it passed.
It
at
did
the
not
meeting.
pass. Correct.
It did not pass, okay.
It did not pass.
So yeah, we need this number.
So yes, Kathy, the number would be different if we had to do that again.
Could be different.
Could be
It could be
different.
different, yes.
But might not be.
It can't go higher.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think we would put it wouldn't be a higher number, but I don't know that there's anything that would prevent it from being the same number. But I can certainly check with town council, and if that's the place we land, we'll know before a special election. If we dropped it by $1, that would be a different number. I mean, there's ways to. If there's some, I don't think there's a requirement that you can't put on a Prop 2.5 ballot question more than once at the same amount, but if it has to be different, obviously, if we get into that level of minutia, we will have town council opine on what we need to do next.
But is there a dollar amount that we can put into general budget? Close Article 5 with the general budget, vote on that, close it, and then have a separate number that requires a 2.5 override.
I don't believe so. I believe we're required to vote on the school budget as it's presented to us.
The one that they voted on, I think if we didn't present it to the public, then there would be a problem.
Yeah, I think
Because
the
we would not have presented what the school put
committee
forward.
passed, yeah.
My understanding is that because we are a separate body assessing and basically giving a fee to the 3 towns, that if you vote in a different number, it's pretty much the same as just saying no to the budget that we have.
Yeah, so, but I do think we're required to put their number in.
I agree.
And that to not do so, I think could run us afoul of some regulations.
And can we close all but the school budget, or do we have to, if we don't close the school budget, the annual town meeting, do we have to open up everything or just the school budget?
So that's a good question, and I think a lot of that, and I will certainly talk to town council about the specifics if that's the road that we end up going down. I think the Board of Selectmen is going to want the ability to potentially open up the remainder of the budget because it may come back at an amount that we haven't budgeted for, but we might be able to make a few cuts to reach that amount. So right now, for instance, we had set aside $315,000. If the school committee passed a budget that said it's $325,000 and we're $10,000 short, we would want the opportunity as the Board of Selectmen to come back and say, we're going to revote these other parts of the budget because we need to make up that shortfall.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to close out other parts of it because we need those other parts.
But that's what I'm saying, but when they vote, and they vote on this section, like, we're not committed to that. If we need that money if they don't vote for the school. That's
right.
What I'm saying, because we do vote by section.
We do vote by sections, and I think the answer would be that until you have a balanced budget, the budget is never closed. So until we
vote the final, close the entire budget.
Yeah, I mean, the goal would be, I think, to vote all the section, if we go forward as we are now, to vote all of the sections, and then the school would depend on that Prop 2.5 override, and then hopefully that would be kind of an individual.
Article 7 is our savior, which is the free cash one.
Right. So we could vote to transfer money from free cash to cover a small delta.
Portion if we needed it.
If we needed to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, we just are out of money whenever we're out of money. And town government ends in March, and that's it. We wait for the snow to melt.
I don't think that's exactly how it would work, but I think we would have to. I mean, there are so many variables that I think we're just going to have to address the actual ones that come to us instead of speculating about what we're going to do in each individual case. We will sit down with town council who's gone through this in other towns, I'm sure, and make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's and getting the school committee whatever they legally need for us to do and for them to operate. And for us to kind of fulfill the Board of Selectmen's roles, the town meeting's roles, and the school committee's roles.
Yeah, we're having protective factors so that we've covered all of the bases that we need to, so that we don't get hemmed up in one area or another.
Right. So that's the plan.
That's the plan, just to make sure that whatever happens, that we have something to cover that. We've gone over, the last meeting that we had gone over all the different scenarios, and we made sure that we had safeguards on all of those so that we weren't caught in, for what it seems to be right now for me is that I feel that we need to make sure that, we provide the services that we provide. And I want to be able to provide the services that we provide and work with the school to come up with some kind of amicable agreement so that we can move forward and not have to dig deeper in everybody's pockets. At least that's my hope.
And the date for the final school budget, they have till July, correct?
No, I think it's December. I think it's beyond that. What is it? Is that the day?
There's some time before.
Can we hear from the school
I'm not
committee?
sure of the entire date. I think the December date is if we don't have a budget by then, the state comes in. But I believe on July 1st, if there's no budget yet, because that's the beginning of our fiscal year as well, that we go to a 1/12th budget of last year, plus any contractual obligations. And then we just keep going and trying to get a budget.
So, and I'm sure that that's worst case, and I don't think, we're willing to do whatever we need to do to kind of get this taken care of, so that there's some kind of agreement with everybody. I don't think we need to go through the what-ifs or whatever, but we definitely are willing to roll up our sleeves and look to see what we need to do, so that we're all in this together.
So if the override doesn't pass, then we really don't have a balanced budget then, right?
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Correct.
All right, I was getting a little confused.
Yeah, we don't have a balanced budget if the override doesn't pass, unless, something else happens.
Do we want to talk about the highway department?
Do you want to talk about the highway department? Because I do.
I do, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you look at the functional segments, can you put that back up? The highway and streets has 43.4% increase this year. That's because we have, for the first time in a long time, had money that we can put towards the bylaw for the pavement management plan. So we have put additional funds to pave roads, and we've added a position at the highway department so that there's more manpower there to take care of things as they happen. So we did want to make sure that we did that.
Yeah.
And so those funds are in there. And we would like to see them remain. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I'll just say that of all of the emails or phone calls that I get, it all has to do with the highways and fixing the roads, and this is why the focus has been to start putting money towards these areas that the citizens are wanting, and that's part of the reason why I think we're in this position, is that, that's a hefty sum that we're putting on roads, which really is not that much if you look at what it costs to pave a road. But we do have a pavement management plan that has been voted on and agreed upon with the town, but it's never been funded, and we want to make sure that we start putting money towards that.
Every year that I've been a selectman, we've started out funding that plan. And then as time went on, we've removed those funds because we've had to, a little bit and then a little bit more until there was nothing there. Mm-hmm. And this is the first year that we've been able to feel that we could do it.
Yeah, to put a substantial amount in there to get that moving again.
And so there's that. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else have any? Again, Article 7 is to transfer from free cash any funds needed to balance the budget at that particular time. This is one of those, it provides for a funding source to balance the budget at town meeting. And at that particular dollar amount would be determined at town meeting.
Can I say something else?
Sure.
This has to do with the override. For people that want to know, our tax rate right now, I believe, is $15.26 per thousand. The override will increase by 0.635. So that means our rate will be, if the override were to pass, around $15, and we go from $15.26 to about $15.88, something like that. So that's the difference. For the average house in town, which is assessed at $390,000, it would be an increase of $248 a year, which is roughly a $20 a month increase for someone in the average house in town. That would, of course, go down or up depending on your assessed value, but that's what it does to the rate. Just so when people are filling out their ballots, they can have that information to take into account. Sorry. Back to
Nope,
free
that's all right.
cash.
It's just, and that's just the facts. We're just giving out the facts. It has nothing to do with whether we're for or against it. I'm saying that we're trying to cover all the bases so that all the information gets out to everybody. Did I touch upon 7? Yeah, that's the free. Article 8 is to see if the town to fix the salaries and compensation for all elected officers in the town. This article is legally required to set the town clerk's budgeted salary. Any questions on that, Kathy?
I will just say that the only elected official, for anybody out there that has another thought, the only elected official that is paid in the town of Townsend is the town clerk.
Article 9. This is the beginning of several different water enterprise departments, budgetary. This is for the appropriation for the water enterprise fund's revenue to operate the water department for the fiscal year. That should be 24. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Correcting my own thing. There's an intermunicipal expenses, that's the chargebacks, cross charges, right?
Yeah, that's the cross charges from the water department to the town.
Okay. So the water department, as they operate separate, but they do use town offices, and this is the amount of money that they would use, whether it be in the accounting area or whatever, to offset the cost. The article is to fund annual operating budget for the water department for any intermunicipal expenses. Okay, Article 10. Article 10 is the, there's no simple way to put this, Dave, huh? Can you get a microphone on?
It's the additional cost of the treatment plant. The EPA.
So the cost at this point is $6,100,000.
Additional to the 14.9 from last year.
Okay. And this is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds at the sum. So is this borrowed? Are we borrowing that?
It's borrow or fund. In this case, the money is being borrowed from the state revolving fund. 58.2% is going to be forgiveness. And so it's a combination of those. Borrow, appropriate, free cash. It's a whole bunch of different mechanisms.
The plan is to borrow these
Is to borrow this, yes.
And when you say forgiveness, that means that the town will get half of that back at some point?
58.2%.
And when would that happen?
Before we start paying for the loan.
Okay, so no definite time frame.
So we won't have to pay 58.2% of the loan back. So whatever the final number that we spend, because there's contingency money that's in there, not all of it will have to be spent. So the number could be less than the 21 million. Does that make sense? Because there's 1.3 million in contingency, which is required by the SRF to carry.
But I think, just to make it clear, at a certain point in time, the SRF's going to finalize their forgiveness numbers.
Yes.
And because our loan is with the SRF, that money will be removed from the principal of the loan.
Right.
Okay.
And so we're not going to get a check. They're just going to remove it from the principal.
So you don't have to pay back the
And we're required to pay back the remainder, but the at a 0% interest rate.
Correct.
And it'll be a much smaller amount, obviously, than what we're authorizing to
So
borrow.
58.2% forgiveness is about $12 million.
Thank you.
Article 11 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate available funds in the treasury for $1,332,000, 465. And this is for the fiscal year capital plan. It was voted by the capital planning committee as detailed. Oops.
And I think that's another place where the header has to be FY24.
Correct, yeah.
It's all the way through in the budget as well.
Yeah.
Those need to change.
These are what capital planning has put on for the year. Fire and EMS is to replace ambulance number 1, replace engine number 3. Highway Department is looking for a pickup truck with a plow and culvert inspection camera and a 10-foot wing plow. And Facilities is looking for a crew cab, full-size pickup truck, and a flammable storage cabinet. And that's to store any flammable liquids. Any questions on that? Article 12 is to see if the town will vote and raise and appropriate available funds in the treasury, the sum of $101,588 for funding fiscal year 24 lease for the ambulance. This is required for the lease on the ambulance, and the cost is offset with funds from the ambulance receipts reserve account. Article 13, this is the brother or sister article. This is for this year for PEG access receipts. Those funds will be $134,268.10. That's equal to 5% of the Comcast gross annual revenues in Townsend. So those are the ones that would be asked.
3/4.
3/4, right?
Be up to a 4th quarter.
If it's there. Article, is this 13? This is one of the ones I had to change, I think.
14.
This is 14. It says 13, but it should be 14. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to convey.
Yeah, that's correct.
That is correct, 13?
13 was PEG access.
So this is 14. This is for 97 Main Street, shown on this.
No,
That's from special town.
that's from special town meeting.
Okay. Oh, I didn't do the slide. Okay.
That's Article 14. Right?
Yes, okay. That was my mistake. So this is for $5,000 to be added to the 300th anniversary celebration to be held in 2032. We've been doing that every year. Article 15, my numbers are correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is for $8,000 for a periodic inspections and property data verification program. That's mandated by the Department of Revenue. This is for the assessor's office. We're also replacing a server for them as well. We're doing that this year so that they can stay within regulations. Article 16 is to grant the Board of Selectmen authority to research, develop, and participate in a contract to aggregate the electricity load of the residents and business in the town and for other related services. This is energy aggregation. Currently, the town, we the selectmen have chosen to go on to a municipal aggregation, which has reduced the cost of energy for town buildings. At a substantial, we've been seeing some of the bills coming in, and it has reduced the amount of the cost for energy for the municipal buildings. This goes in hand with us extending the aggregation to the community. This is what we felt was something to show the town that we are looking for the energy costs. We all know how much energy is costing us. To have the municipal, to have the townwide aggregation will allow us to, the town, to enter into an agreement with, how to reduce our costs, but we would be able to enter into a contract to have a more stable, the cost of the electricity would not be going up and down seasonally. It would be one flat rate, and it would be for, depending on what we sign the contract for, but we are looking for a 3-year contract. There is going to be a lot more conversations in regards to this. We're having a public hearing on it, right?
Not until after the vote. We have to vote first.
Yeah.
But if you come to Earth Day, the Board of Selectmen has a table, and there will be information available there on community aggregation. And if you look at the town website, the little dots across where it, jobs and volunteering, all that, there's one on community aggregation that you can go to now and look at that and see what it means. Basically, it's bidding out for the generation cost for the entire town. And which hopefully, the plan is to lower the cost for that for everybody. And everybody will be part of that unless they opt out. So this article is worth reading about, and there will be more information at the Board of Selectmen table at Earth Day.
Correct.
Next Saturday, the 22nd, 10 to 3 at the high school.
Thank you for the PSA.
Anytime.
But again, this is something that we thought would be something that we should look into, and when we looked into it, we found out that this is something we really needed to initiate. So any questions, definitely come to Earth Day and ask us. But this is the first step in being able for us to look at contract for the aggregation. Article 17 is a town's general bylaws to amend. This is to amend the town meeting from 75 to 50, and for the quorum, yes. And this is also to the second part I always get this.
To put things on town meeting.
Yes, when we put articles on for town meeting, instead of having a March deadline, we want to have it on the April deadline to extend that as well. This was, I know that I've gotten many emails in regards to the last 2 special town meetings that we didn't have a quorum with, and there was a question in regards to, is it going to be a citizen petition? And the Board of Selectmen decided we were just going to put this on, just to have it on there to let the town vote on that. So it's reducing the required quorum for town meeting should be from 75 to 50, and extend the time for the warrant articles to be submitted to the Select Board from March 1st to April 1st. That gives us an additional month. Is this the
Community Preservation Act.
Okay, this is the Community Preservation Act, Article 18. Do either of you two want to speak to that?
You want to?
Sure. So Article 18 is an article for the town to adopt the provisions of the Community Preservation Act, which allows the town to add a surcharge to the tax bills to go into a community preservation fund. Money in the town's community preservation fund can only be spent on three buckets of items. One is open space, 2 is historic preservation, and 3 is affordable housing. The reason why so many towns in Massachusetts have adopted the Community Preservation Act is because for every dollar that you collect, the state will give you a certain percentage of matching funds. If we collect $1, the state might give us, we collect $100, the state might give us $20 or $30 or $40 to match it. So we're basically getting, on top of the money that we collect from the surcharge, we're basically getting free money from the state to be able to do things like produce more affordable housing, like preserve, acquire open space and recreation facilities, to do historic preservation on historic buildings. In addition, the funds that the state has to dole out to communities come from things that you do with the Registry of Deeds. So every time an individual files a deed or files a mortgage or files a homestead, a portion of their fee goes into the state's Community Preservation Trust Fund. And then that's the money they use to give the benefits to towns that do adopt the CPA. So it's really a kind of a win-win for the municipality, because it gives us a pool of funds with which to attack those kind of crucial areas for the town, while also having access to extra funds from the state that come in and provide us that we could do more, get more bang for our buck. And importantly, everybody in Townsend is already putting money into the Community Preservation Trust Fund every time you do a transaction with the Registry of Deeds. But those monies up till now are going to other towns. So we're hopeful that we can get this passed so that the town can start reaping the benefits of the Community Preservation Trust Fund and doing work in those crucial areas.
Yeah, we had the Housing Authority had hired a consultant to help us write the housing production plan, and this was one of the many suggestions that the town that we bring forward. So I think it's been any monies that would come in would also help us fund the Affordable Housing Trust as well. So, there's many different benefits for this, but it's investing a small amount to be able to get money back from the state. You don't see that too often.
And again, come to Earth Day, to the Board of Selectmen table, and we'll have flyers that explain this. So stop by and pick one up for more information.
What's the dollar amount on the surcharge? Is it going to be on property tax? Is it going to be on excise tax? Or, you're going to have a 2.5 override on top of this?
So it's just on property
All 1
tax.
year.
The adoption of the CPA does not require a Prop 2.5 override, because we would be adopting it. That's the vote that would adopt it. It would be, you choose the percentage. It's either 1 or 2 or 3% onto kind of your existing tax bill. And then there are exemptions that you can vote in. So, for instance, there's an exemption for low to moderate income individuals and moderate income seniors. There's an exemption for the first $100,000 of assessed value of your property. But generally speaking, that surcharge it's only on property tax.
Do you want me to say more about that?
If you want to.
So in the motion, well, I guess the select board voted to do the rate at 2% and to exempt the first 100,000 of the assessment. So the fee is based on not your assessed value, but on your property tax. So if your taxes are $5,000 for the year, it would be less than $100 a year, because you would it's not part of your property tax. It is a separate charge.
Right, so you take out the first $100,000 of value, you wouldn't ever pay a surcharge on that. So if your property's only worth $100,000, you wouldn't pay a surcharge at all, but you'd pay a surcharge on the amount of the assessed value of the property above that.
Yeah, and if you are, based on the median income, I think it's 50% of the median income for the county. Is that correct? You would be exempted from paying the CPA fee. So I should get that number, shouldn't I?
Yeah, it's for Middlesex County, so it's a...
Yeah, I have another week.
And the other thing, the Board of Selectmen, we did not exempt businesses.
Is what?
We didn't exempt businesses.
Yeah, no, we didn't exempt businesses. Businesses
It's
with,
only residential that have those exemptions.
right. Any questions? Come learn more at Earth Day.
Get a job at Channel 2 after this. Article 19 is to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 140. This is a citizen's petition for Harbor Trace Road and...
No, 19 is just, is the general bylaw on the Affordable Housing Trust.
Oh, that's right, okay.
You want me to talk about
Yeah, go ahead and do that, because I
So
do.
the town voted in the Affordable Housing Trust in January of 2020. The Housing Trust was seated in October of 2020, and the Declaration of Trust was filed with the Registry of Deeds. So the town of Townsend has an Affordable Housing Trust. This bylaw codifies it. It puts it so that to find out what the trust is, you can see it in the general code of the town. You don't have to go to the Registry of Deeds to find out what this is. So that's what this bylaw is. It just makes it easier for people to look and see what in fact the trust is.
Yeah, that's on E-code that you can look it up, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rather than going to the Registry of Deeds and pulling the Declaration of Trust. Any questions on that? Okay.
All right. That also will have information on that too, at Earth Day, if you have any questions in regards to that. Article 20, again, is the Harbor Trace Road and Cooperage Way. Harbor Trace Road is going to be part of the, we're fixing that road in order to have the water treatment plant out in that area. That currently is not a public road, so this article makes this a public road, and Cooperage Way, because it's all in the same area. We would be looking at, we have to there's not much upgrades from what I understand. We just looked at the engineering for Harbor Trace Road, and it was really the paving plan to get that up to snuff, and then Cooperage Way is the next piece of it, correct?
Yeah, so we've discussed it with highway and with water. Cooperage Way has already been for the most part of its extent, brought up to standards that the highway department is satisfied with. Harbor Trace is not brought up to those standards, but as a requirement for the mains to go in that are part of the early article with the $6.1 million, that part of those funds are to put in the water mains in Harbor Trace Road and do this paving. So once the mains are in, it'll be paved up to town standards. And so, but we do need to own it in order to put those mains in and pave it.
Correct, and this article says that we now own it. And that's all for that. So the next piece would be the budget. So how would the board like to go through this?
It makes more sense to just go by department by department, go through anything major you found out or not.
Okay.
Yeah, look at the departments and then if there's a major change in the, if we go through the department budgets and look if there's a major significant change in the department budget, just describe the reason for it.
Okay. So we'll start off with the Board of Selectmen then. And,
Say something about
yeah,
the
go ahead.
bus.
Go ahead, yeah.
All right, so if you look at what's line 20 on mine, can you scroll that up a little bit? If you look at line 20, BOS, marked park and ride cost. The Board of Selectmen put a transportation task force in place. The Community Services Coordinator had heard from people in town that they would like a bus to get to the train or to Fitchburg, Leominster, Gardner. So the task force investigated. We had to first join MART because Townsend is a Lowell Regional Transit Community. That's where the Council on Aging bus comes from. We had to also join MART, which we were accepted into about a month ago, maybe a little more. So we're going to be running a park and ride service twice in the morning from Townsend to Fitchburg to the Intermodal Center. One at 5:50 a.m. and one at 7:50 a.m. And then coming back from Fitchburg to Townsend in the evening on roughly 5:15 and 7:15, or it could be 6:15 and 8:15, I have to look. But in any event, 2 in the evening. So there will be park and ride service 5 days a week, and on the weekends, it will go like this: 9:15 to Townsend, 9:15 from Fitchburg to Townsend, and then in the evening, the same sort of thing, around 5:15 or so on Saturdays and Sundays. So we're still working out the final cost to the town. We budgeted $25,000, but because the town has an MBTA assessment that we have never used of $16,000, it doesn't come to the town unless you use it. And so we would be using that with MART. So for that service, it will cost the town maybe $10,000, but we're not certain yet. So it's budgeted in at 25, and that's what that is. The grant administrator, I think that's up towards the top under personnel.
Yeah, there's a couple of personnel, if I might.
Yeah, if you'd like to talk about those, Eric.
So if you look up at so first of all, line 5. That's the line that funded the wage settlement for the former town administrator that will be ending this year. So that's why there's that large reduction. Lines 7 and 8 are 2 full-time personnel that are funded by ARPA. In prior years' budgets, we hadn't shown them in the town budget at all because they were funded by ARPA, but in this year's budget, we're including ARPA as a revenue source and showing all of the things that it's funding within the budget. And then the grant administrator was funded under the Board of Selectmen for FY23. However, in FY24, we're moving that to the land use department, and so you'll see an increase in land use further on. I think those are all the main points for the Board of Selectmen budget.
Then we had Finance Committee.
I can address that. There was an increase in Finance Committee. We are trying to put money aside for reserve funds. So we did put an additional $10,000 over last year, hoping that we get to keep it there if we can get a budget stabilized. So we do have additional money in the reserve fund. So that's why you do see an increase in the Finance Committee budget.
Accounting, we did have several changes in this, and you want to touch upon that, Eric?
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, our former plan had been to hire a full-time accountant. Unfortunately, at the rate that we were offering, we weren't finding any qualified individuals, and we had hired an outside consultant to be our town accountant. Going forward in FY '24, we're slightly changing the plan, so we've hired a full-time assistant town accountant who will be available in the office, and so that is the difference in the line 37 is the reduction in salary and wages from what we had been offering for a full-time town accountant to what we're going to be offering for a full-time assistant town accountant. So you'll see that personnel cost goes down. However, in line 43, you'll see that significant increase in the accounting, professional, and technical services. And so that is the contract we have with the accounting firm for them to be the town's town accountant, with the understanding that we have a full-time assistant town accountant to take a portion of their previous scope of services off of their desk. So the cost in FY '23 for 12 months of town accountant services from this firm was $90,000. So the cost in FY '24 for 12 months of town accountant services is going to be $45,000, but that's taking into account the new full-time town accountant, their assistant town accountant that we have. So those, along with a new accountant training line, account for the differences in the accounting total. So while the difference is not huge, there's a major restructuring of how we're spending the money in that department.
The next is the Board of Assessors. And there wasn't really any major changes here.
Just the 5-year revaluation for $5,000. That's the bulk of the main change here.
Treasurer's Office. Nothing really.
There's no major issue. There's some changes you'll see that are a result of the postage account going up, but those are corrections to actual costs.
Our legal is the same as last year.
Yes.
MIS, we did an increase in regards to professional and purchase services. That actually was partially because of the licensing we had for licensing for the software that we had. We also have licensing for firewalls, servers. There's a lot of I guess generally was that there has not been a lot of attention to the infrastructure, and we're taking obsolete equipment and replacing it with equipment just to keep us on the status quo, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. This also, and the FY '23 number does not take into account the $50,000 that was voted in a town meeting that was specifically to pay for the hired services.
Correct.
So the delta isn't as great as if you counted the
So the increase looks significantly more than it actually is because we had to take funds at the end of the year to balance that out. That wasn't part of the approved budget.
Right.
Correct.
That's what we're trying to make known to the public there.
Thank you. Town clerk.
So the town clerk has several different functions, but there's not any significant change except for there's some reductions in the 140 to 142 as a result of the anticipated fewer elections this coming year.
Conservation?
Yeah, so the significant change in conservation is we currently have a part-time conservation agent and a part-time conservation support person, and we'll be combining those jobs. They'd previously been a single position in town, and so we're reverting back to a single position in town as the conservation agent. So that's the change you see in lines 162 and 163.
One's going up, one's going down, so it's really
Right.
kind of a wash there.
Yeah.
Planning board,
There's not any,
5% increase.
yeah, there's nothing really in the planning board, the zoning board. There's some changes in land use, however.
yeah, and we can talk about that.
Right, so this is where the grant administrator dollars that were formerly on the Board of Selectmen have landed in the land use administrator, in the land use category. And so that's the significant increase in this budget, but it's offset by a reduction in the Board of Selectmen.
Facilities,
Yeah, so so there are two kind of major issues in facilities. The first is the removal of the auto allowance. This is only going to be able to happen if we do have the capital plan that authorizes the purchase of the truck. So those things are kind of tied together. And then there's an increase in line 232 of $48,500 for energy costs. And that kind of, as we discussed earlier, is a result of level funding energy costs for a couple of years in which energy costs were not level. And so this is just catching up the energy costs to what we believe the actual energy cost would be.
Is there also a new position there?
There's,
Administrative assistant, is that new?
yeah, so yeah, I apologize. It's not new. It's currently a very small amount of hours allocated for administrative help for the facilities department. And so this contemplates, thank you for reminding me, this contemplates an increase in those hours to allow for more administrative help to the facilities department.
Thank you.
And that position will be combined with the one for the highway?
That's what we anticipate.
Okay.
And that's the end of general government.
correct.
Any
Question?
I'm assuming people are just going to shout out if they have a question. Just let us know in the middle of them.
Public safety.
Yeah, so the police, so I will say this, while the police and the fire budgets have large numbers and increases, it's actually not large increases because of how large those two departments are. So the increases themselves are actually modest. The main one in police, I think was, yeah, just the operating wages for the staff. So that's the main delta there is that we're removing one lieutenant, but adding in two sergeants. And so that comes with an increased cost that's in line 252 and 253.
And the total public safety is still in the single digits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that we were looking at both in fire and police to get a good hold on the overtime, and
Yes.
with both departments have done a great job, number one, to get the hiring done, but more importantly, to get that overtime under control.
Yeah, and so they've done.
We are also using some ARPA dollars, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So there is one full-time police officer and one full-time fire department firefighter in this budget are funded with ARPA. So as ARPA is being shown as a revenue source, those two items count towards part of the increases that you're seeing. So if you go down to communications, which is after fire, so during this year, we completed a move from Neshoba Regional Dispatch to Patriot Regional Dispatch, which is based out of Pepperell. During the first year of that move, there were lots of grants that were allocated from the state to benefit us, to incentivize us for that move. But the comm center, other services, you see a $70,000 increase. That's just as a result of the grants, the incentive grants going away. So this takes us back to roughly where we were before the move at the prior location. The remainder of public safety is the building department, and there's no significant increases in the building department. Or the tree warden, or the burial agent, or the parking clerk. These are all
the same.
very minor increases. And that, once you get down past the parking clerk, we're at that.
Well, there's not significant as far as the budget is concerned, but they are moving towards the online permitting as well, so there's been a lot of changes in that respect.
Yes.
And we did get a printer for them, which I know that they're very happy about.
Yes. So there is one line in the budget where their professional services line is going up because that's where we're going to be funding the print release from.
Yeah. Animal inspector and animal control.
Yeah, those are relatively straightforward.
Tree warden, burial agent, so these are all.
Yeah. So that's the end of public safety. And the next relatively small in lines, but relatively large in dollars is our education lines. So this first, line 493, is the line that includes the assessment from North Middlesex Regional School District.
Can I ask a school committee member question? When's your next meeting? When is your next meeting? Thank you.
So line 493 is the line that is contemplated to be covered by the override.
So we have budgeted what we have budgeted here added to what the override amount is what the current ask for assessment.
No, what is here is the current ask, and that that would be reduced by the override.
Okay.
The next is highway, and I think Veronica had mentioned a significant increase in highway, but it's there in line 529, which is the
pavement management.
Yeah. Now, Also, and I apologize, you've gone past it, but there's an additional operating
position.
staff in
Yeah.
line 503 and additional hours for support staff in line 506. So we're, you know, the bulk of these increases is to provide us for more capacity for handling paving issues and more funding for paving additional streets every year on top of our Chapter 90 money. Once you get down to snow and ice, that was 543 as the main. We've rather than level fund snow and ice, we've increased the
salt.
salt budget by 25,000. And that's then to highway. So as you can see, there was a large delta there, but if you got, that's the $200,000 pavement management in the one position.
Okay.
The landfill is just the only change in that budget is the increase in the curbside pickup and transportation to the trash contract. That's a contractual increase of the 22,000, so that's the only difference there.
This is the last year of that contract, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
That will be renegotiated?
Yeah. So in FY24, I believe, is the last year of that contract. So cemetery and parks does not have any significant increases. The housing authority doesn't have any significant increases. There's a new section that was not in the prior year's budget for the housing trust. So the housing trust's funding total is $47,605. That is going to be completely offset in FY24 by ARPA funding. So there's a revenue offset for that $47,000 for this fiscal year.
Board of Health.
Board of Health, the major increase to the Board of Health, as you can see in line 631. Unfortunately, the town has had an increase in the amount of illegally dumped items on town property. And so rather than try to force departments to come up with ways to pay for the disposal cost of these items, or you know, we put a specific line in the Board of Health's budget so that to cover the disposal costs of illegally dumped items on town property. It doesn't mean we're not going to try and find out who owns them and try to, you know, get some sort of recompense or fines or go that route, but there are items that sometimes we can't find the owners to. So that's what that $3,000 line in 631 is. The Neshoba Board of Health, that's just a contractual increase. We level funded our landfill engineering. The Council on Aging does have a couple of alterations. In 652, that large increase is as a result of a deputy director for the Council on Aging. So that increases as a result of that position being funded. It had been funded for 1 year out of ARPA. The increase in that position had been funded for 1 year out of ARPA, but now it's being absorbed into the budget. Here there had been $10,000 set aside for the community outreach coordinator. That entire cost is reflected up in the Board of Selectmen line that we discussed earlier.
Right. In the Council on Aging, I do want to say that they had a significant increase in attendance and meals, and there's been a lot of things they've done since the COVID incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is to allow them to be able to not only support the services that they do now, but to increase it to kind of match the amount of the increase of attendance that they have had.
And the last portion of this section of human services is the veterans agent, and there's no significant alterations there. So the next is the library. There's only been some minor changes to library staffing. The one of note is the assistant library director, which was a change in the job title that came before the Board of Selectmen, for the children's librarian to have job title to get changed and increased responsibilities. And then there's some extra hours for library techs to allow the library to stay open.
That's the big thing. The library will have additional hours, which is much needed and much wanted.
Yeah, again, another service that gets used a tremendous amount by the town and by the region, quite frankly. So those are the main issues in the library total. The recreation total, the important thing to note is that the difference in line 701 from FY23 to FY24 is a result of an FY23 we did not show, we did not account for the $10,000 from the revolving fund that was being paid for this position. And so now we're showing that $10,000 as a revenue source, and also showing it as part of the assistant director's wages. So there's an offset in the revenue as well. And that's the major change in recreation. Memorial Day and Flag Committee have not seen any significant changes. So that's culture and recreation. For debt, the big one here is the increase in the long-term debt for non-exempt. This actually is a result of a blip in our debt profile. So we had a drop in long-term debt service last fiscal year, and so this is just, this was an expected increase in our debt service to back up to more, kind of our more historical levels. Those funding, those specifically included the new fire truck, and the new large six-wheel dump truck for highway were the two of the major items that went into that increase in long-term debt service. But according to the town has a very healthy debt profile currently. Surprisingly, we had a drop in our county retirement system, assessment, which was surprising to the, but welcome,
right?
Because it allowed us to absorb some increases. So if you see down at line 762, the increase in health insurance, that was as a result of some extra positions, a couple in water. So the water department took on extra positions, and so there's an increase in their offset to the town that goes into this health insurance increase, and the remainder is for the couple of other new positions or positions that have moved from part-time to full-time. There's still a question, unfortunately, about line 780, as to whether that's a carryover. We don't have the final numbers again for our property and casualty insurances, but we hope to have some finality by town meeting. So we'll know what that number is, just a carryover from last year's actual figure, from this year's actual figure in line 780. And that's the bottom line for the budget.
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
So can I make one kind of general comment about
Sure.
the last line?
Yep.
So one of the things that's important to note between FY23 and FY24 is that we included ARPA and we included some other revenue sources as offsets that hadn't been included before. So that 9.3 number includes several $100,000 in ARPA that, you know, aren't taxed. That's not general fund. And those funds were also there into FY23, but weren't accounted for as part of the budget line. So the actual, outside of the schools, the actual increase in the budget for non-education lines is about 4.7% for the non-education budget.
That sounds about right. Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Can I just say that this is the first year, since I've been a selectman at least, where we don't have any funds being used to pay contracts that were no longer in play. So that gave us some extra funds to put towards the roads, which is a good thing. So anyway, I just want to make that statement.
Yeah, so of that 4.7, a significant portion of that 4.7 is in the highway department to fund the additional staff and the additional paving. So that's where the bulk of the increases in the town's budget of that 4.7% increases are in highway.
And the percentages that seem high, a lot of those are where the ARPA funds are being used.
Right.
At the moment.
For the offsets. And I think we're at the conclusion of what we're here for today. So if we don't have any further questions, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
You mean adjournment of our meeting?
Of our meeting here. And then
We do need to vote on the
special town meeting warrant.
articles
Okay, do you want to do it here? I thought we were going to do it in the other room, but we can do that here.
did, but
I'd rather do it in recess to the other room.
Recess, okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we recess back to the selectmen's room to continue.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Welcome back. We are out of recess now for the Selectmen's meeting for April 11th, 2023. We're back in Selectmen's chambers. So we are reviewing and finalizing, but did you want to ask a question?
I think
Yeah.
Teresa's question was on the annual town meeting warrant, so I think what we should do is just vote on the special town meeting warrant.
Okay.
Since I think that one we've all seen so many times.
Entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that, we approve the special town meeting and, warrant as written. And
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then you had a question about the annual. Would you make a motion first?
Yep, I make a motion that we approve the annual town meeting minutes, annual town meeting motion, warrant as written.
Second. But no, not as,
As written, yeah.
as written, okay. So,
I will make the changes to make sure everything that says FY '24.
okay, so under function.
Well, first, we're gonna approve the motion and then
Yeah,
we're
first we
gonna
have to
talk
second
about
the
the
motion.
I thought I did,
And now we,
Okay.
no, now it's
Okay,
discussion.
now the discussion, now discussion.
second, okay.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
under functional segments, the headings say FY '22 and FY '23. That needs to say FY '23 and FY '24. Okay,
there's also, as you know, there's some changes that we talked about, some of the numbers
Yeah,
need to be changed.
Yes.
So you have those, I see that you have most of those dates, and then.
Well, I do too. I want to add on that,
Yeah,
Teresa. I'm
okay.
sorry to,
Yep,
but I
okay.
do want to add on that, the slide deck, I will be making these changes and sending them to TCAM. So what's being broadcast afterwards will be the official, the right numbers and everything
oh, okay,
on the slide deck.
okay. Okay, so let me make the changes to this. And I'll send it to you, so you have all the right numbers.
Yeah. And then I'll submit it to TCAM, and that way they, when they post the slide deck, they'll all be the correct.
Gotcha.
And then Article, now I have to find it, Article 7. 11, thank you. Article 11 talks about the capital plan, and then I realized that even though we did talk about it and have it in the capital plan item should be over $10,000, and there was a $2,500 capital planning item in there. I want to know, does the board still want to keep that, or?
we did last year with the auger and the soil book for conservation, and it was like 1,500 or 1,200, I can't remember. And same thing, capital was supposed to be over 10K, but it was a one-time item and it didn't fit into the budget in a good place.
Yeah.
And so that's why we kept it in capital plan, and I'm assuming that is the same thing here.
Okay, so this is like a fireproof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's just a
one-time
one-time.
purchase.
Yeah.
One type of thing.
There are things that are
I
gonna
just
be,
wanted to
And it
check.
itemizes it, kind of.
yeah,
I would also hope that whatever line item in facilities where he was buying the stuff that goes on the back of a carpenter's, the box and the rack or whatever it was, that would be part of the pickup truck dollars, not a separate thing. And kind of for the same reason, because it isn't something that he's gonna be purchasing each year.
Right.
It goes with the truck. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
That was my only comment on that.
I found some very good lightly used trucks that are hybrid. I found out some hybrid vehicles
Cool.
that are,
And how, who do we have in, or is it something even to, because we did find those grants for the hybrids, how do we pursue those?
I'll have to take I'll have to take a look at that and
Okay.
see how we can get those in conjunction with the purchase, because that's just gonna be a.
Okay. So are you ready to vote?
This one?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. All righty. And then if you could also make a motion for
I make a motion
warrants.
that we review and sign payroll and warrants out of session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And last but not least,
And then I make a motion that we adjourn at 9:20.
Right.
Aye.
Whatever it goes back.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for your attention.